All right. Well, I have no notes for today. I don't know if that should frighten me more or maybe frighten you more. But I'm going to climb on one of my soapboxes. I travel around a lot and I visit a lot of churches. I've got satellite TV, got a lot of religious channels with a lot of religious programming. I listen to some now and then. I've got DVDs by some of the famous authors and so forth, and some of the famous preachers. Got a lot of those. This week, one particular TV evangelist, he was going on and on about how God had blessed him with a great income. And God had given him great blessings. And oh my goodness, he almost made me sick to my stomach. And then he started on, that was just his introduction. And then he started into, and you, my dear listeners, congregation, people, you too can have all these blessings. I wonder sometimes about these preachers. We've got a local church that just built a beautiful new facility, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. Probably the largest church in town, seating capacity. If not, they're close to it. And now in the last year, they built another new sanctuary, bigger. Same property. They had purchased wisely, so they had room. I'm not necessarily saying they're wrong to do that. But I just wonder. This church has got a good heart for missions. And I got a lot of good things to say about them, but, all that church space they've got. And they can tell me all they want that we use it during the week. We have these different activities. Listen, people, the majority of that space is wasted. You got to keep it cool during the summer. You got to keep it hot during the winter. It ain't usable at all. It takes a lot of electricity and so forth. We've got several churches locally that rent space from the community college. Now they've got some space. They've got a couple gymnasiums, a couple auditoriums, some very large classrooms. They got room to rent out space, and it ain't wasted space. And I just think of all that money that goes into building these beautiful buildings and then maintaining them, and for what? It's kind of a pet peeve, and I'm going to pull this all together here in a minute. But for example, it is a regular occurrence for me to get a phone call from somebody that says, now understand, people, our church, we're usually less than 10 people, have been for several years now. We've been bigger, but, we're not very big. That's because people don't like what I preach. And this might be one of those. But I get phone calls regular. So-and-so, pastor so-and-so, this elder, this deacon from this church said to give you a call. I'm stranded. I need $50 in gas. I need $100 for food. Our utilities are going to be shut off. Can you help us? Oftentimes I have to say no, but sometimes I say yes. My question isn't why would people call me? I guess they call me because I do something whenever possible. My question is, why do these other churches turn people away? We've got churches that say, well, we set aside so much of our budget for benevolence and we're going to help. I'm not sure that's the way we're supposed to do it. I don't recall Jesus running around with a big bank account. Well, I set aside a certain portion to feed people. I don't recall the Apostle Paul building magnificent buildings. Seems to me he always started in the synagogue and usually ended up in the marketplace. And maybe meeting at somebody's home. Maybe open air. What do we do with our money? Christians, churches. The truth is, when I get money in my pocket, when I made a lot of money, I tended to spend it as fast as it came in. Now I don't make any money. I get donations. And maybe I'll lose some donations out of this, but I'll tell you the truth. A lot of times I give it away. I don't think God ever wanted me to be rich. In fact, my wife says I've tried to live to prove that. Now let's pull that together with the opening. These TV evangelists talking about how they're blessed of God. These pastors in local churches right here in Cheyenne and everywhere I go. If you aren't receiving the blessings of God, it's because you aren't trusting in Him. It's because you aren't living for Him. It's because you aren't tithing to Him. Well, maybe the last one's true. But here's the point. All these pastors, for instance, sidetrack, all these pastors say you got to tithe to the local church and you can give offerings to the local church and to others above that. Listen, I don't care if you go to our church or not. I don't care if you tithe to our church or not. If you go to our church, I don't care if you tithe to us or not. As long as you're tithing to God and God's ministry and you make sure it's going someplace that's being used the way you want to see it used, then praise God, go ahead. I am not asking for money, people. Okay. Try and close this. I look at these churches and these TV evangelists and I wonder if they've ever read the Bible. Seriously. Have you ever read the Bible, people? God did not say, go and build big fancy buildings and wait for people to break the door down asking to be saved. He said, go into all the world. He didn't say save up a lot of money. He said give what you have to the poor. And as far as not receiving the blessings, okay, everything in between the opening and this was all the side stuff. So TV evangelists, give me the blessings. Some pastors say that. So I'm just thinking about the Bible. Abraham was given a promise of God that his descendants would outnumber the stars and they would inherit this promised land. Never happened in Abraham's life, or his son's life, or his grandson's life. Many generations later, they came out of Egypt and wandered another 40 years, and then they went to the promised land. Abraham must not have been living a godly life and being blessed of God. Oh, he had wealth, but he didn't get God's promise. But he trusted God. Joseph, he was sold into slavery. When he was a teenager, he ended up in prison. It wasn't until he was 30 years old that he received that position of honor and the wealth and the prestige and power. Must not have been blessed of God. Wonder what these modern preachers would say if God himself spoke to them and said, you're going to be poor for 15 years. You're going to live on the streets. That's what Joseph did. I think he was blessed of God. The Old Testament's got more examples like that. What about John the Baptist? Must not have been blessed of God. He was out there in the wilderness eating locusts and wild honey and wearing camel hair. It doesn't even say he got any gifts of food from people. Jesus himself said, I have no place to lay my head. When he had to pay taxes, he told Peter, go catch a fish, take 2 coins out of his mouth, pay your tax and mine. Jesus himself didn't have anything. What does that mean? Jesus wasn't blessed by himself? The Apostle Paul, he often had to work for his living. Hey, TV Evangelists, try that. You know, the disciples pursued, tortured, crucified, hung, beheaded, whatever. You telling me that they weren't blessed of God? Preacher, you can keep all your money. I'd rather take the love and joy that God's already given me. I love what I'm doing. I love my life. Here's the thing. I wish you'd stop lying to the people. Because all you do is get them depressed because they think they're no good because God isn't blessing them. People, God has never been about this life. His people have suffered many times. Captivity. Just dispersion. God has never been about this life. God is about the next life. In this life, you can have joy and peace in your life regardless of your circumstances. If you live your life 100% for God, if you follow God's rules every minute of every day, the blessings of God will overflow. And you will truly find joy and peace in your life.